locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in, I'm cuffed, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my...
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see there, Putin still leads. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
The PSGL. It is tier 3 time again, and the gang's back, the boys are back to bring you tier 3 this time around. Myself and Alex, we're back on the business. Alex, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a while. Definitely looking forward to get back into the gist of it. Very excited as well. Japan, very interesting track. Also got all sorts of different aspects, which is also very awesome to watch.
Yes, Japan, one of my favourite tracks, not just to watch, but also just around the world generally. One of the best tracks in terms of a flowing nature, a lot of history. A lot of stuff gets done at this track. Endurance racing on motorcycles is done at this track, the Suzuka 8 Hours. And yes, a great amount of pedigree, great amount of history, obviously, within F1 in and of itself. And we've already seen some good league racing here this week already in Tier 1. So why don't we hop on into this qualifying session? We've got drivers on their outlaps already here in the start of what will be the only qualifying session of this entire thing. If it's going to load up. Is it going to load up? Is it going to load up? It's not going to load up on stream for me. That is very, very tasty. Why would it do that? Let's try now. There we go. It's finally woken up, Alex. Let's go.
Lovely. Let's do this. Cameron Dowds is about to start his first final lap, so let's go along with him.
Let's do that then, shall we? Let's see what he's up to. He's just exiting the final corner now. He's about to try and barrel his pass car into turn 1. Turn 1 here at Japan, it's Suzuka, a little bit of a tumultuous braking zone because you are turning and braking, but thankfully you don't have to brake and shed off that much speed, to be fair. Now the S section, one of those ones that you just have to try and flow one corner into the next. If you mess one up, you'll mess the next one up. Now the Dunlop curve, looking very, very clean and concise so far for Cameron Dowds. Probably a little bit off where he might want to be with that first sector, I think. But so far, it is looking oh so very good. He's hitting his marks, hitting his lines very nicely. Jack Humphreys has retired. I'm not sure quite how that's happened. Same with Fionn McKee. Have they got qualifying bans potentially? I don't know. Either way,
I'll get on that for you.
Either way, we've got a fast approaching traffic here into Spoon Curve. Left and then left again before we head into 130R. A little bit wide of the apex there potentially on the second portion of Spoon Curve for Cameron Dowds. Would like to have maybe been a little bit tighter so he could get that throttle down a bit sooner. Now we're going to see some unrealistic racing lines courtesy of F123 where he gets to just not run the car out as wide as possible. Doesn't have to worry about the tyres in that aspect and is able to just also cut the crap out of these curbs as he comes into the final corner. And this will be, inevitably, the first lap time on the board, and it's a respectable lap time on the board as well. A 26.039 for Cameron Dowds. Let's see if that gauntlet is enough to be beaten by anybody else. Let's have a look. Jane Tripkov, for example, is going to be a second off that pace as he crosses the line. Bartosz Samaro is just starting his lap. Let's take a look at anybody who might be finishing one. Oscar Villacampa comes in P2, 0.3 of a second off. Ewan Lanauer also coming in just above 0.3 of a second off in the sister McLaren. But it's Drake Dempsey, the American, who is going to slot in ahead of Cameron Dowles to start things off. The 25.9, the first driver into those 25s.
Yeah, not bad at all. Good start from those guys. Still do have a few people coming to cross the line, but yeah, definitely a good few bankers. I expect Jem Tripkov and Harlan Marquez must have made some sort of errors on their lap to be that far behind. And yeah, you're right. Jack Humphreys, Phil McKeat, both with qualifying bans today.
Thought that might be the case. I could really only see one real reason as to why they would be out of there like that. So yeah, I'm glad that it's all sorted.
Yeah, awesome. So, Bartosz Samaro also on a lap at the moment. Still got around half of the grid to finish their first qualifying laps. He's currently in the middle sector, coming around 130R. Or sorry, just entering the third sector, even coming around the chicane. Very famous for the Senna and Prost incident back in, I think, 89 it was. I wasn't alive, so I have no idea. Anyway, coming across the line, opening the DRS. Is that going to be good enough to challenge for the top spots? No, it's not. It's only a 26.6.
Yeah, not great from Bartosz Samaro. Always had a bit of a tumultuous history here in PSGL. Every time that he's been in a division that I've watched, he's always been one of those drivers who happens to be embroiled in incidents and demonstrates a couple of times that he certainly has some pace to play with. Just doesn't really get to make use of it as much as he might like to. Anyway, people still out on laps at the moment, it would seem. Tony Riche is looking to try and put a lap together here too. Coming round what at the moment is just turn 12. It's a very long radius corner. Again, unrealistic racing lines around turn 12 as you come into the spoon curve, which is 13 and 14, I think, if memory serves. And that has looked like a reasonably good run for Tony Riche so far, but we'll have to see how it's going to look into 130R. There's a lot of traffic on his way in, so if these guys ahead are at least a little bit aware of what's going on around them, they should be able to get out of Tony's way, and it looks like they have done. Tony now tries to barrel the car into the Casio triangle and finish this lap up. Where is it going to put the Aston Martin man? It's going to slot him in rather neatly in P8, just behind Oscar Villacampa.
Yep, not a bad lap time. Middle of the pack. Obviously, he's going to want to improve from that. Also, you've got to remember, how close it is. So yeah, anytime gained, you can see only 2 thousandths behind Oscar Villacampa. Anytime gained is going to be some sort of position. I think Jack Lav, just the last one who was actually on track to complete their flying lap. He's only in the first sector. If the game is to be believed, that's a purple first sector, which is showing strong pace. Going into there, been really important to get the car slowed down, get the car rotated slightly. Misses the apex of that corner, but uses all of the curb on the exit to try and maximise the traction. Heading towards Spoon. Want to carry a lot of speed through this corner. Very important not to go too wide, otherwise you end up on that green sort of edged curb, which will cost you a lot of time if the car bottoms out over it. Anyway, heading towards 130R now. Just this flat, straight, well not straight, flat curve to deal with before the chicane where, I mean, I don't remember Latifi turning right a little bit too early. He's going to hope he doesn't do that, and he doesn't, as he hooks the chicane around very nicely before using the curb on the exit again. Going towards the line, opening the DRS, and it's going to be P3.
Yeah, it looks like he lost a little bit in that final sector there, with sectors 1 and 2 at least both believed to be purple. Just didn't quite have it, I think, through the Casio triangle. I think struggled for traction a little bit on the left side of things. I think I've seen drivers take a little bit less curb on the left, but more curb on the right on the way in this game. As I obviously in previous games, you would just see them monster both curbs anyway. I think there are concerns in F123 about the car bottoming out on the left to try and provide you with enough traction and grip to get out of the corner well, so it's better not to eat the curb, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that ends up transpiring later on in the session, whether we see people risking it for the biscuit on that curb or whether we see people staying well clear. But for Jack Lav, it's head of the second row for now, and that is respectable, but he is out of sync with the rest of the field here in terms of his qualifying run program. So we'll want to get back round to the pits quickly, in order to make sure that he gets the same number of runs as everybody else, because he's going to be one short. Well, I'm afraid he might be a couple of tenths short worth of a qualifying time when it comes down to it.
Yeah, of course. So we do have the drivers coming out on their out laps now for their second runs. At least that's most of them, as you said. A couple out of sync. Cameron Dowds is one of them who's just started his flying lap. Was the first person to do the first lap. He's going to be the first person to do the second lap. Currently in P2. Needs to gain around the 10th if he wants to gain any sort of position, if he wants to gain on Drake Dempsey. Coming around, was it the Dunlop curve, you called it?
Yes.
Heading towards the fast couple right-handers. I'm going to say now, I'm abysmal with corner names, so I'm just going to sort of describe the corner as we get to it. But it's a purple first sector, so looking very strong as he heads towards the hairpin. Again, gets the car rotated, nicely gets the car set down and hits the apex before using the curb on the exit. Almost judged to perfection, heading towards Spoon. This one I do know because it's called Spoon. It's quite a memorable name of a corner before he heads into this. Spoon gets the car rotated, again not going too wide on the exit curb, and then using all of the track as much as he can without slowing down. So
this is going to be traffic here. He's going to need people to get out of his way. He's having to weave through them. Oh, that's so messy, but thankfully he gets through it okay. I imagine that's going to have compromised his lap to a degree. Now a Mercedes in the Casio triangle as well. That's not going to help matters. I think it'll be straight back into the pits for Cameron Dowds here. And it will be. That's really quite depressing.
Just unfortunate timing there. Harlan Marquis just starting his flying lap. Just got in the way. Yeah, really unfortunate there. Didn't look to be too bad of a lap time. I think he was about 400ths down though, so that's also a reason that he might just not want to continue it. Anyway, Drake Dempsey is coming around Spoon, and he is almost about to finish.
Yeah, I don't think he's
you're right.
at the moment.
Very good point. Very good point.
I'm on board with Harlan Marquis though in the other Merc, because we obviously saw that he didn't set a particularly representative lap time. Must have made a mistake somewhere in the middle of the lap, but throughout the first sector, he is 900ths of a second up on what was his previous best time through there. It's not too far off what the front men are doing at the front, so let's see whether Harlan Marquis has anything to add to the picture in this second portion of the lap. Round turn 12 into the Spoon curve. Braking not too difficult here. It's just about getting the car hustled into the apex on both sides of the curve, and he has done so beautifully, but unfortunately has ran the car a bit wide on the exit curb, which has led to that invalidation. So another dismal qualifying result here for Harlan Marquis. He was up by 1.2 seconds at that point, which would be looking at a 26 flat for now, I believe.
Andre Lopez just crossing the line there, going P2.
Lovely,
25.999, only half a tenth off Drake Dempsey's provisional pole time.
It is wild to me that, I don't know whether the track hasn't ramped up enough, but we've only got 2 drivers at present inside of the 25s. I'm fully expecting to see us drop into the high 25s a little bit more as we move forward. Drake Dempsey actually just went straight into the pit lane, by the way. Didn't even bother setting a lap on that second set, and there it is from Paul Eschelmeyer. That is a result out of nowhere. Now, forgive me, Eschelmeyer fans in chat. I don't know Paul. I have not seen him in Tier 3 before, and that is certainly a statement, way to make your mark in the Williams. Putting it in provisional pole already, that's going to set him up very well. But there's a name that I'm more familiar with. Louis Welsh has come round and brought us into the 25.8s now. We've got a Red Bull, I think, that is also about to cross the line. I'm not quite sure who it is going to be. It was Wilson Hall. I think he's actually starting a lap. So I guess why not stick on with Wilson? Let's see what he's got to offer. No, he's not starting a lap. He is charging. So anybody actually on a lap here? Tony Riche? No. Bogdan Moldovan? No. Villacampa? No. Looks like we're all out of laps, boys. Hope you enjoyed. Yep, nobody on a lap here, actually. This is depressing. This is the wind down of qualifying here. Interesting, though, that we've seen a couple of folks come out on track, make mistakes on these second runs, and it has hurt them. Obviously, we've just mentioned that we saw that from Cameron Dowds. Jack Lav has not improved either on his second run. We've obviously just seen there, as we flicked through a lot of the drivers, not many people improving on their times or invalidating their laps too. Harlan Marquis, we watched him invalidate his lap. A couple of mistakes starting to work out the woodwork here in their second runs.
Yeah, quite interesting actually. Yeah, a lot of people making those sorts of mistakes, but they're really costly. You got to just think if these guys can even hook up a lap, they're going to gain positions if they gain time. You can see how close it is. What is that like? P4 to P9 is all within a tenth. It's very close between those guys, as it usually is. So yeah, these guys just got to start really buckling down, making sure these mistakes are minimized because it's going to cost them.
Yeah, it absolutely is going to cost them. Qualifying here as well as Suzuka, I think it's actually quite important. It's not particularly easy to overtake around this track. Obviously, you think about the first sector is pretty much made up by very quick left-right sequences. You try and put a wheel up the inside there, it's not going to go well for you. Really, your overtaking opportunities are turn 1, maybe into the final chicane, and if you're really brave, into the hairpin, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody get a really good enough run to make that move stick in any meaningful type of way. So qualifying is super, super important here, especially in a field as tight as this in PSGL Tier 3. So we're going to see the Ferraris out first on track this time, not Cameron Downs to lead them out. Didn't make it 3 from 3, unfortunately. It is Liam Stevens who leads Andre Lopez out on track at the moment. Is that a full course yellow that I just saw pop up there or something like that? Extremely strange. But nonetheless, we've got all the drivers starting to pile out the pit lane now. This should be a very exciting run.
Yeah, we'll see what these guys can do. As I said, very close, so any sort of time is going to be a position. You also got a few drivers who I'd potentially argue are out of position. You know, Villacampa, Stevens. We've seen those guys much more up the order this season so far. So yeah, definitely interesting to see what people are going to be able to do. Nathan in chat saying potentially some of those guys, as we saw, didn't go for a second run to be saving tyres, which could be it's a very good point. That could be a thing. Or Harlan Marquis is getting a 5-place grid penalty for
I don't really know whether that's
blocking.
important about saving the tyres though, because session restart, right?
If they do a session restart, because
there's two people who've got 10-place grid penalties at the moment. There will be a session restart. PSGL, I think, are actually, at least in Tier 1, enforcing session restarts after quali. I don't know whether that trickles down into the lower tiers, but I think it's quite possible we could be seeing a session restart after this.
Yeah, we've seen it before. The restarts after the penalties, they get added for. I mean, it's just the game being a bit silly. So yeah, but obviously we will still continue these final flying laps, and these will set the positions, and then I guess the penalties will be removed in the session restart. So, Liam Stevens, what have you got for us as he is starting his flying lap? Coming down the long turn 1, gets the car rotated, gets the car slowed down. One of those really quick corners can be really difficult before you're heading up the hill. As you said, if you get one wrong, you get them all wrong. It's definitely a tricky few corners before getting the car rotated again, going up the hill even more. Just a continuous snake of corners, heading towards the very fast right-hander. Almost flat out.
Degner curve, I think it's called, yeah.
Wow.
Just
Stevens,
I could be wrong.
Purple sector 1, about 2/10 up on his time, looking very quick. I said he might be out of position, and he's proving me right here. He's going to have to gain about, 3/10, 4/10 to actually gain, to go for provisional pole, but he's already got purple first sector, so he's certainly looking good. He's coming around Spoon now. We'll see the second sector split in just a moment. Getting the car rotating again, using all of the track there. It looks like it's just been judged to perfection. Coming across the sector split line now, we'll see where he is in comparison. Doesn't seem to be purple, but he is almost 4/10 up. This could be absolutely mega from Liam Stevens. If he can continue this, he'll be looking at the top few positions. Gets the car rotated nicely for the chicane. He's just got to keep it cool, get the power down, shifting up all the gears, opening the DRS. Is it going to be good enough for Liam Stevens? It's good enough for P3. I'm sure he will not be disappointed by that. And we see the other Ferrari of Andre Lopez coming across the line. He's 2/10 up, nearly invalidated there on the chicane, but just managed to keep it clean. He's going to come across the line. Is he going to be able to challenge for pole position? Yes, he is. It's a 25.823. Stunning lap time from Andre Lopez. Andre Lopez, I believe, I'm not sure if he won last week, but he was running in the lead for quite a while last week. So you're definitely showing he's got the pace, and a great lap time from him. Oh, we did win last week. George? Alright, I guess I've lost George. So, a few people coming across the line now. Jack Lav goes P3. Paul Eckelmeyer improves to get a 25.738 to take provisional pole position. There's not many drivers left who can beat that. Louis Welsh is one of those, though. He's coming towards 130R. Is he going to be able to take pole position away from Paul Eckelmeyer, who's done a fabulous lap time? He does the chicane very nicely there, gets the power down, and a little bit of oversteer on the exit, I think, but he opens the DRS. It's not going to be good enough. He's about 4 seconds off his time, and that's going to be Paul Eckelmeyer on pole position in Suzuka.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Nice to see you again.
My microphone decided it was time to just disconnect, so really sorry about that. Really sorry about the quick tabbing out there as well mid-session, guys. That's one of those disappointing moments, unfortunately. Either way, you are right in what you say. Paul Eckelmeyer comes home in P1, 800ths of a second faster than Andre Lopez, which, to be fair, in PSGL Tier 3 is good. It's a pretty big margin, actually. Louis Welch as well.
Thing I got to say, I was wrong. Andre Lopez did win last week. I misread the calendar, the standings even. But yeah, so Andre Lopez did win last week, and he's very close to pole position. Yeah,
hot mic disconnect. We love that. So sorry for that one in chat, guys. Thank you for sticking with it. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Well, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, you've got to go now. So thank you for your guest appearance in qualifying.
No worries, no worries. There will be a session restart, so you got a lot of time.
Fantastic. Right, in that case then, folks, we'll head to a break, and then you'll have my lovely dulcet tones for the entire time through. So, see you shortly.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though.
Hello folks, welcome back. It's finally going to be getting around to race time very shortly. Alex has forsaken me, he is gone. But I still, of course, have me. Me, myself, and I. Hope you're all okay with that. If not, sucks to be you. Truthfully, it's going to be a fun race here. It looks like it's going to be dry conditions throughout, judging by the session restart. So hopefully it's going to be a good bit of racing and we don't have some poor racecraft as we have seen so far in F1 23. We're of course just waiting for players. Takes longer than it ever has inside of this game. But I suppose I would sacrifice a little bit of time to ensure we had good connective stability. We really are waiting an eternity. Anyway, we saw Paul Echelmeyer put it on P1 with Andre Lopez down there in P2. We've got 5 red lights coming on very quickly, and any second now we're about to be off to the races, and there we have it. Let's go, let's cook. We'll have a look at the tyre situation in just a minute, but first things first, let's actually just get the track maps already up. We're cooking. Let's go. Alright, time to go then as Echelmeyer gets off well from the starting line. He is cooked off the start. It's already side by side though for Liam Stevens and Drake Dempsey through the S's. Now up into the Dunlop curve. It's around the outside for Ewan Lanauer on those soft tyres. Let's have a look at the tyre situation. Lots of soft tyres mixed in with lots of hard tyres off the start. This should make for interesting racing. Couple of guys towards the back elected. Oh, that's someone off. That's someone in a wall actually. I think that's Bogdan. No. Who was it? It's a safety car, whoever it was Bartos Samaro. It was Bartos Samaro. We saw him flying off in the back of screen, and that is unfortunately not a fun way to end your race at all. I don't know whether he had contact made with him, but either way, when you're coming up the Dunlop curve very quickly on lap 1, your tyres might not be in the window. You just have a snap maybe, and it sends you over the top. Can be one of those moments. Race prediction, says Nathan. I don't know what strategy's best here. I will go with Andre Lopez. Winner last time out. Feel like it's a safe bet. Let's give it a go. Right? 51G impact. Maybe so. He did absolutely fly off to the Shadow Realm. He got sent to the Bronx there, well and truly. But there it is. Immediate safety car. Everybody go back to sleep. It was exciting for a while, but now it's time to go back to sleep. Safety car now for a few laps. It gives us a little bit of time, I suppose, to quickly investigate what's going on with tyre strategies for everybody. Obviously, the leading 2 are going to be taking it a bit quicker off the mark, and this safety car will be helping them massively extend the life cycle of these tyres. But we are seeing Cameron Dowd, Oscar Villacampa. I'm not sure whether they've got any damage that they're trying to get rid of, but they're both going into the pit lane. Hard tyres for Dowds, medium tyres for Villacampa, and medium tyres for Jack Humphreys. Now, I would imagine there is a reason they're going for mediums. It can't just be a mistake, surely. I can understand going for the hards. You'll try and bring those to the end of the race. It'll be very, very difficult to do so, but going off the softs and onto the mediums, I don't think you can get the mediums conceivably to the end of the race around here at Suzuka. And if you are going to try, well, then I can only wish you the best, because I can't see a world in which that's going to work. I truthfully can't. I'm guessing they must have had some damage, maybe? That would be the only reason I could think. Go onto the mediums, try and make up some places, but frankly, not sure. Dowds might have made the big play, though, as the hard tyre runner now on fresh hards. I think there's a chance these can go to the end of the race, but to be totally truthful with you, I'm not sure. Japan has always been a track that's been a bit funny in terms of tyre wear, because whilst you might expect it to be quite hefty on tyres with the constant direction changes and fast corners, you can actually get away with using the soft tyres. You could a little bit get away with using the soft tyres on the last game as well, which is kind of how you know that it's always been a bit funky on tyres, this track. So maybe there is a way in which you can get these hard tyres to the end. It's definitely going to be a big ask, and I think a safety car, another safety car later on in the race, will be what Cameron Dowds is looking for ultimately, but ultimately, for now, we're just stuck in safety car purgatory. Anybody having anything nice for dinner, or had anything nice for dinner in the chat? Safety car periods when you haven't got somebody to talk to are really tough. They are my least favourite. I think it's going to be important off the safety car restart here for Eckelmeyer and Louis Welch to try and work together. If they can make these soft tyres work a little bit and try and get away from Andre Lopez, who will be bottlenecking the field behind, I think that's going to end up being a good strategy for them both. If they can just put a little bit of daylight between them, that would be bliss, I think. And I think that will be Eckelmeyer's approach. I'm just a bit concerned as to what maybe it will be Louis Welch's approach or not. Will he want to try and take the press the attack at the front of the field or not? One can only assume that he would be interested in it. So, safety car not coming in, or is coming in? I think it must be coming in. I must have missed that notification, sorry, as the field is being paced up and behind Eckelmeyer. So, let's see what he's cooking. What has he got at the end of this lap? When is he going to choose to go? I think he's already decided to go, actually, for Eckelmeyer. Went very early, went on the exit of the Casio Triangle, and is now really trying to press on here. You'll see the impact of these soft tyres likely through the first sector. There will be aero wash as well to contend with for everybody behind here. So let's try and put the hammer down now, Paul. What have you got for us? The German slinking his way through the S's, up the hill, trying to keep the car in line and as good as he can. Now up through the right-hander into the Dunlop curve. Just going to throw the car in and hope it sticks, and it has stuck beautifully. Now, rounds it into the Degner curve. This double right here. 1 into 2. And then we'll be running into the hairpin. A very, very tough corner to get right. But again, these soft tyres will be doing bits into the hairpin, especially under braking. The tyre delta can be so huge on tracks like this. Seems that Paul Eckelmeyer has a little bit more pace than maybe Louis Welch. He's dropping him a tad. Not as much as Welch is dropping Andre Lopez. They have nearly pushed it outside of that DRS range. Now Spoon, got to make sure you get the car nicely done through here, because this will be penalty central, and that could have been a track limits violation there for Eckelmeyer. It looked very, very wide on the exit. 130R won't really yield too many results in terms of tyre wear, but here we go. It's Jack Lav actually going through on Andre Lopez. Andre doesn't really seem to fight that too much. No reason for him to do so actually at this point in the Grand Prix. He's on the hard tyres. He's not racing the same race as these soft tyre guys in front, and if he allows Jack Lav to get in front as well, it means there isn't going to be a big gap open up ahead of them, and he can just latch onto that DRS train that's inevitably going to occur, which is only on the front straight, by the way, here at Suzuka. You'd expect that maybe there would be something down the back straight, and whilst the slipstream is quite prevalent, no DRS. It's just the front straight, which makes it the most potent overtaking opportunity. Round the outside, actually, speaking of overtaking there, for Liam Stevens, as Ewan Lanauer makes a mistake. Actually, I think Lanauer's just got back by, unless this is a bit of desync or latency or something. That was extremely weird, as I didn't see an overtake go down. I just saw Lanauer appear back in front of Stevens. So that's something to just keep an eye on as we move on deeper into this race. Anyway, for Louis Welsh up the front, he's sticking with Eckelmeyer, and it looks to me that Jack Lav is also sticking with them too. Further back though, Harlan Marquise and Cameron Dowds are going blow for blow. They had a little bit of an overtaking moment there, but Marquise managed to come back through and hold position. Of course, Dowds, one of the people to pit under the safety car, went onto the hard tyres right away and is really harassing Harlan Marquise here. I think he's desperately looking for a way by. Feels as if he has more pace than the Briton. But it's actually Marquise who's putting the moves on Fionn McKee into the Casio triangle. And it looks like Oscar Villacampa is trying to put the moves onto Cameron Dowds into the same place too. But neither of the moves get done. Villacampa, still looking for this move a bit further back, is going to be very, very close, as is Jack Humphreys. And now with DRS enabled this time round, we'll be seeing that on the next cross of the line. But it seems that Cameron Dowds has hung on to these medium tyre guys for now, and we'll be looking to try and steam back up to the back of Harlan Marquise. The best form of attack here will be, well, the best form of defense, sorry, will be attack. Desperately needing to climb onto the back of Harlan Marquise and potentially look to try and find a way by him. But Jack Humphreys' car looks so sketchy with all this lag that he's experiencing here. I wouldn't want to be around him if I were any of these guys ahead. Anyway, let's check in back at the front. Andre Lopez is not losing touch with these soft runners. In fact, he's just chilling. He's doing his job nicely. So, with DRS enabled this time around, we're going to have to start seeing people now trying to position themselves for some moves. And first and foremost of those people, who's really going to be the one benefiting, because he will have DRS on somebody who will not. He's the only driver in the field who have that luxury, is Louis Welsh. He will be right behind Paul Eckelmeyer. And will he be looking to try and take control of this race lead? Well, it doesn't look like he got the best exit from the Casio triangle, but we'll see just how good the DRS can be here. He's not using the battery anyway down this front straight, and he will just sit patiently behind into turn one. Not looking to put the move on just yet. Going to sit behind for the moment. Loses out massively through the first sector. I'm going to say because of aero wash too. Very difficult to follow. Despite the fact that these cars have improvements really compared to previous iterations of the F1 game with dirty air, there is still a fair amount of aero wash that comes off these cars when you're within a second or so. So it can be a little bit difficult to follow closely and contentiously in behind of other drivers, especially through the first sector here at Suzuka. But we're hoping to see a little bit closer racing from these guys as we move on through the laps here. Actually, it looks to me that Andre Lopez is looking very, very feisty behind Jack Lav. Almost looks like those hard tyres have more pace already than the soft tyre guys. I was not expecting to see this out of Lopez, but my pick of the litter for P1 here is looking like he has a real good chance to try and sweep around the outside. In fact, he gets it done well before 130R arrives. Jack Lav slots back in behind, and now Andre Lopez sets his sights on the other Alpha Tauri ahead of Louis Welsh. We'll see now whether Louis is going to launch his attack on Eckelmeyer, because Andre Lopez is looking threatening in the rear view. Here comes Louis Welsh up the inside of Eckelmeyer. No move to be made for his teammate behind, but that is lovely stuff, as Welsh will now get ahead with the assistance of DRS and look to try and build a little bit of a gap, as Eckelmeyer had been doing to him just a few laps ago. That is a car retired in the pit lane, or not retired, just going into the pit lane. That's Harlan Marquise. strapping on the mediums. I'm not sure what's happened for Marquis to have done that so early on when he was on the hard tyres. One would assume a broken front wing of sorts, but even still, definitely very early to be looking at that if that isn't the case. So, Welsh looking to try and put the afterburners on now, pull a bit of a gap to Ecclemaire behind. Will really want to be using some of this battery if he hasn't already considered it, if he isn't going to be just sat in a constant flip-flop battle with Ecclemaire moving forward. Doesn't look like he's really interested in using the battery here. I think he's just trying to drive away with pace. But there is one man who is looking mighty quick now. These hard tyres must be coming alive because Andre Lopez is flying on these hards now. I don't know whether the guys at the front have done a little bit too much too soon. These softs look like, or maybe just Andre Lopez looks like he's using the battery, using these tyres a little bit more, and will be looking for a way by Ecclemaire this time around. You have to think he's so close in the wheel tracks, and Ecclemaire gets it a little bit wrong out of the final corner, and that will leave an opportunity now in the slipstream. Battery on, forcing Ecclemaire to use his battery too. Ecclemaire has to go for a move on Welsh here, and it may even be Andre Lopez to try and firm it out around the outside. He's trying to make it work, but that inside line just a little bit too strong there for Louis Welsh. And Ecclemaire has to turn defense into attack there at the front of the field and now reclaims that race lead. Good racing from the guys at the front here for the time being. We'll see whether the gloves get thrown off shortly, but so far it's looking respectful. You saw, though, that Ecclemaire had to use a lot of battery there to keep Andre Lopez behind. Lopez, I think at this stage in the race, buddy, you might want to start saving a little bit of battery because these soft tyre guys are going to start losing pace as it is. So if you can ensure that you've got the battery to make those moves when you need to, and when it's going to be most optimal for you to do so, that's my recommendation. Of course, I doubt he's going to listen. He definitely knows more than I do. But even still, it's not going to stop me from having a suggestion, shall we say. Up the front, Ecclemaire getting gained in on a bit here in the slipstream. Louis Welsh looking to try and put the afterburners on to try and catch back up and overtake. You have to imagine that he is going to do so. Gets it very nicely sorted through the first part of the chicane, but the second part, Welsh just can't seem to get the power down. As Jack Lav becomes the first of our front runners to dive into the pits, it looks like with the straight line speed, Louis Welsh still might launch an attack up the inside here. Absolutely sends it into turn one up the inside of Ecclemaire, and Liam Stevens has done the same, it would seem, to Ewan Lanauer. Liam Stevens and Ewan Lanauer have been going at it so far at the start of this race. Just to remind you, Liam Stevens on the hard tyres, Lanauer on the softs. This might be the changeover period now between these two tyre compounds. I think Stevens had to use a lot of his battery in order to get to that point, but even still, you have to be happy with it. Another position gain, some more points scored. So, for Stevens, he gets ahead of his long-term nemesis in this race and sets his sights on Drake Dempsey, who's been having a pretty quiet run of things in P4. Previously P5, of course. Now, with those hard tyres still working, and now working better than the soft tyres ahead, you have to assume, this is where these guys, P3 down to P5, are going to have to try and make it work. They have Ecclemaire and Welsh ahead. They have battery that they need to start recovering because Stevens has used a lot of his. Dempsey, I don't know how much he's used. I can't imagine he's used too much. He's been sitting pretty. But it's not going to deter Andre Lopez. He hasn't got much battery and he's still using his. I think to defend from Dempsey's slipstream a little bit and to just make sure he stays within the DRS of Ecclemaire and Welch here. He is falling a little bit behind and he has lost that DRS, I think. Is he going to get it as he crosses the line? He is. He has got it. But that is going to pull Louis Welsh into the pits. He's going to try and go for the undercut on Ecclemaire. And we've, of course, got Tony Richer diving into the pit lane as well. So the front is all changed now. These soft tyre guys really starting to try and get off these compounds and onto some different ones. We'll see. It's hard tyres for Welsh, medium tyres for Richer. Jack Lav went onto the hard tyres. So did Andres Franco, who has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, no less, actually. As I mentioned him, 29.5 for that chap, as he's now trying to race up through the back of the field, gain some positions on this rather meaty undercut that he's attempting. Up the front, though, it is going to be a loss of DRS this time around for Andre Lopez. Ecclemaire has been using a little bit of the battery, as you can see. He was down to 50%, still got plenty in reserve, but those soft tyres for Ecclemaire seem to still be working quite nicely up the front of the field. He's still pulling a gap. Definitely has more pace than Lopez behind. But he is going to be susceptible to the undercut of Jack Lav and Louis Welsh if he does not come into the pit lane this time around. So keep your eyes peeled. Will we see Ecclemaire, peeling into the pit lane? Or is he going to try and firm this one out to have a better time of things at the end of the race, potentially on the medium compound of tyre? If he's still got pace on these softs, why not keep sticking with it? Drake Dempsey also looking like he's got some pace. He'll surely make it by Andre Lopez this time around with the DRS. Ecclemaire has come into the pit lane, so now Andre Lopez is going to be your net race leader. Is that Liam Stevens also diving into the pit lane off of the hard tyres? Interesting strategy here from Stevens. You have to imagine he's going to be going onto the medium tyres and trying to make those go to the end. Ecclemaire is going onto the medium tyres too, so clearly low deg here at Suzuka for these guys. They're going to be trying to stick this one out. Where will Ecclemaire come out in relation to the pursuant pack? Where will he come out into Welsh and Jack Lav? He's going to come out behind them. Thankfully for him, gets out ahead of Andres Franco and will have the fresher rubber, or the better rubber, shall we say, with the medium tyres. Now set his sights on the hard tyre runners ahead. Welsh and Lav up ahead are going to be scrambling over each other. Now, thankfully, they've both made their pit stops, so the two AlphaTauris aren't going to lose time through that particular department. But if there is a safety car, one of them will be forced to choose, and it will likely be the driver who is in second. So, will Ecclemaire start putting the moves on soon? Or are we going to start seeing this battle for the net race lead here in P10 really start to hot up? Meanwhile, at the front, the guys going long on these hard tyres who will need to make up all the time at the end when they're going to be on those soft tyres with low fuel. It's possible for sure, but Andre Lopez is just falling further and further back into the clutches now of Ewan Lanauer. Had a lot of pace earlier on in this stint on the hard tyres, it would seem, for Andre Lopez, but Drake Dempsey is putting the moves on, pulling away. Ewan Lanauer has now decided to go into the pits. Of course, Ewan was on those soft tyres. He and Bogdan Moldovan were the two drivers still remaining on those soft red-banded tyres, and they have both now come into the pit lane. We'll see. They'll likely come out on the medium tyres if they've tried to stretch it this long. So, your two drivers on the hard strategy out at the front, Andre Lopez and Drake Dempsey, looking to try and see if they can make this inverted strategy work just as well as the guys behind have. Welsh now up to P8, 8 seconds back of Oscar Villacampa, who started and switched onto those medium tyres. Cameron Dowds also went onto the hard tyres so very early on. They will be screaming, I think, towards the end of this race. This will be a very difficult strategy for Dowds to pull off. Of course, at the moment, bearing in mind he is your championship leader, so definitely worth keeping an eye on what Dowds is doing on those hard tyres in relation to your championship fight here. Andre Lopez back at the front is not making the ground back up that he would like to on Drake Dempsey. As long as he doesn't use DRS, it won't be too bad for him here. I don't know whether he's going to have too much of a slipstream effect from this far back either down the back straight into 130R. So it is going to be all about the slipstream and the DRS really for Andre Lopez to try and recover the time that he has lost. And I think he's going to have the DRS, no problem. But Drake Dempsey's gone into the pits, and so has Andre Lopez, actually. They've both decided to go into the pit lane here. That gives net race, or current race lead, to Wilson Hall. It's the medium tyres that go on here for Andre Lopez. Drake Dempsey also doing the same, so no soft tyres to be ran here at the end of the race for these guys. Tripkov, Hall, Fionn McKee, and Cameron Dowds may yet still elect to go for a soft tyre strategy towards the end. I doubt Dowds maybe, but we'll see where this brings these guys out in relation to those they were previously fighting with. You got Welsh, who will now be your net race leader, I feel, for this little train that's emerging behind him. This train will be stretching all the way down to Liam Stevens, I think, in P11 at the moment, if Stevens can just get a shift on and make up that 10th of a second. So, for the time being, Welch, your net race leader, 2 seconds back of Villacampa at the moment, who is yet to stop. Ecclemaire on the medium tyres, though. The faster compound at this stage in the race over Welsh and Lav ahead. So he will want to get the moves made very, very shortly if he can, because Ecclemaire will want to make those medium tyres work for as long as he can. Louis Welsh just pushing on. think he's set Villacampa up ahead on those hard tyres as a bit of a target for himself. Sorry, on those medium tyres, I think, for Villacampa. They will definitely not be looking too good after, I think, 12 laps worth of usage now from Villacampa. You can see him, he's in shot there, just over a second out. Louis Welsh won't be making that second up before the DRS zone, so he's going to have to find a way to defend from Jack Lav here. Let's take a look at what's going to be happening as Tripkov now dives into the pit lane. Lav behind is going to have loads of battery, loads of DRS, a whole wealth of things if he wants it, but I think he's just kind of taking it wider to allow Welsh to try and get a run on it. He's going to be a bit more defensive, defending, I think, from Paul Eckelmeyer, and not making the move on Welsh this time around. Are these guys playing the team game here? Both of them in the Alpha Tauri, both of them in TF10, so let's see if they are playing the team game or whether this is just a strategy here from Lav to save a little bit of ERS as he moves through this race. Of course, he's got much more than Louis Welsh up ahead, and this is all hurting Eckelmeyer's time on these medium tyres. The question will be now is how much of a roadblock is Villacampa going to be up ahead? Was really a half a look there from Eckelmeyer, and there is the move from Eckelmeyer. It was half a look on the outside and then a full look on the inside. Jack Lav not giving it up though, using the ERS to try and get around the outside, or the inside at least, for turn 12 of Eckelmeyer. Eckelmeyer doesn't want anything about it as he moves into the spoon curve. He showed him the wheel at least, and then Jack Lav is so keen to defend against Eckelmeyer. Really wants these hard tyres not to make, these medium tyres not to make the progress that they would otherwise be making. As Liam Stevens at the back of your shot there is going to try and go around the outside, I think, of Tony Richet in 130R, and is going to try and get back up the inside now in towards the Casio triangle. Nothing going this time around. That's Fionn McKee now into the pits from your hard runners, and Liam Stevens is looking mighty defensive here, and attacking at the same time too. He's trying to find a way past Tony Richet, but it's not being easy as he's going to try and slot it up into turn 1, but no room available as Richet also on the medium tyres. It's a bit of a bump there from Lanauer, who pushes Andres Franco off track in turn 1. And Louis Welsh and Jack Lav have defended and negotiated this situation nicely as Villacampa has come into the pit lane too and drops back to P16. So this is going to be your race leaders coming up on the current race leaders of Cameron Dowds and Wilson Hall. Cameron Dowds, of course, stopped already on onto those hard tyres, so he might not be making a stop. There has been no stop so far for Wilson Hall. I think he might try and stretch for the soft tyres or hope for a safety car, because 9 seconds back is where Villacampa came out. Fionn McKee, who Wilson Hall was racing, is quite far back of the rest of the field too, but of course has that tyre delta. But with 10 laps, you're going to be cutting it a bit thin if you want to make up progress here on Suzuka. Not a great track for overtaking, and this huge snake of a DRS train is approaching rapidly. Jack Lav still having to defend from Eckelmeyer behind. Eckelmeyer looking really menacing in that rear view mirror at the moment, I imagine, for Lav. Lav getting a little bit of a tow though up this back straight. That brings him back into contention with Louis Welsh. Welsh a bit wide of the apex there on the first of the Casio triangle, but now escaping it as Wilson Hall dives into the pits. It's Cameron Dowds now your net race leader, and they've got a long gap to try and make up to the back of him. No overtaking here, I don't think we'll see from Lav. He'll just kind of pull to the inside to defend from Eckelmeyer and not make the move. So, again, another lap, everything holds station, but Liam Stevens actually made the move on Tony Richet behind that time around, and Stevens now is on the charge. Speaking of charging people in Ferraris, we have Andre Lopez on fresher tyres too with Drake Dempsey. He's making his way through this pack. He's currently in P10, net P9 really, overall, with Cameron Dowds, I imagine, to be dispatched before the end of the race. But Andre Lopez setting his sights now on the hard tyre runner of Andres Franco up ahead. How long does he decide to sit in behind, knowing that he's got Bogdan Moldovan in behind him, and he's got Drake Dempsey and Ewan Lanauer on medium tyres that are the same age or younger than his, trying to get away from him up ahead. So I think we'll see a move made relatively soon here from Andre Lopez onto Andres Franco. Franco sticking with it on this strategy though. Of course, you got to remember the other drivers in this mix who are on the hard tyres are the two leading this train, Louis Welsh and Jack Lav. They will be the drivers who will have the advantage come the end of the race. These medium tyres aren't going to stay great forever. And speaking of that, it's Ewan Lanauer who's making a move on Tony Richer, and he's made it through at the chicane nonetheless, but I'm not so sure that Eckelmeyer will be so content with sitting in behind this time around. Battery being used, actually not got much battery left to use this time around. Louis Welsh is going to let Jack Lav by, and now actually Lav's gone all kinds of wide. They've tripped each other up, they've stumbled over their lines. Liam Stevens now will even pounce on Lav, and Lav going wide on the exit of turn 1 has left Louis Welsh now with no wingman. No one to defend him from the medium runners behind of Liam Stevens and Paul Eckelmeyer. These guys are going to be hounding him now. The gap also for Louis Welsh to Cameron Dowds not coming down as fast as it was before. Those hard tyres just not falling off for Dowds up ahead. But they've got to that point for Louis Welsh. That was 4.7 as we cross the line. Let's see what it is we finish here, as now Ewan Lanauer sees an opportunity on Jack Lav. Will slot on by. In fact, there's another opportunistic driver, Drake Dempsey, trying to find another position on Jack Lav. Jack Lav trying to do what he did previously, but Dempsey is way too brave up the inside of Spoon Curve. Both sequences of Spoon Curve, they do make contact, but it's a bit of pushing and shoving, and eventually Dempsey will find a way through. Red lights flashing for almost everybody in this train. Jack Lav holds it stern though, in behind Dempsey now, trying to find a way through out the inside of 130R into the inside, pulls Andre Lopez. Back to the inside switch goes Jack Lav into the Casio Triangle chicane. A huge snap of oversteer on exit though. That's going to invite Andre Lopez, I'm sure, but no battery for either of these two guys. DRS, of course, for them both, but nothing to separate them as Wilson Hall sets the fastest lap on the soft tyres. He's got a lot of way to go in this race, but plenty of time still left to do it. So the improvement was 0.4 of a second onto the back of Cameron Dowds that time around. That's not going to be enough. With this current strategy, providing his tyres don't fall off a cliff, Cameron Dowds might be in with a race victory here if he can hold it together. These guys behind fighting as vehemently and as aggressively as they are as well is going to keep that gap at 4 seconds. So does Louis Welsh have anything left in the tank? He's pulled a little bit on Eckelmeyer here. Are these medium tyres that are now 7 laps old? I can't imagine they're done yet. They should still have a lot more life left in them. We saw the softs dropping off at around this age on full tanks of fuel. So you have to imagine these mediums have much more in them than just 7 laps. With that said, the gap was 4.4 across the line last time round. Louis Welsh has not been contested so much this time round into turn 1. We'll see whether there is anything on the offering for trying to claw that gap back. He does have battery to use if he wanted to. Admittedly, not much. Eckelmeyer doesn't have much either, and these guys have just been scrapping up front. Dowd's just able to put on the battery when he wants to. 4.4 at the final corner. It's going to be 4.4 across the line again. It looks like Cameron Dowds might have done an absolute masterstroke with the strategy, but Eckelmeyer has had enough of sitting in behind now. He's made the move. He's going to make these medium tyres now really try and press on. He's got 4.2 seconds to make up in the next 7 laps. And will that overtake that's just been done there on Louis Welsh disrupt his rhythm enough that we saw like with Jack Lav, where he just starts going backwards on those hard tyres? Liam Stevens behind is really wanting to try and find a way by. He doesn't want Eckelmeyer to go without him to try and bridge that gap, as Stevens will want every point that he can get. No moves being made. Everyone just sitting in formation for now. That gap still not coming down at the front of the field. Dowds just has done this beautifully. These hard tyres have been made to last. Of course, still got 7 laps of racing still to go. Anything can happen in that time. A safety car, anything can happen, and that could lay waste to Dowd's plans here today, but so far strategically it's been perfect. Andre Lopez has found a way by Jack Lav, and that's inviting another challenge here from Bogdan Moldovan and Andres Franco. These two are not going to let sleeping dogs lie. They're going to want to try and find a way past Jack Lav. Jack Lav having none of it. Meanwhile, still Andre Lopez setting his sights on Drake Dempsey ahead. These two have been nip and tuck throughout the race so far, and they'd love to try and find another way to try and push this battle up through the order a little bit, but they have fast drivers up ahead of them, And that gap at the front not coming down again. Further back here, though, Jack Lav is going to be overtaken by Bogdan Moldovan in towards turn 1. He's going to try and get the switch back up on the inside, but no room at the in this time around for Jack Lav. Just keeps falling backwards. His teammate Louis Welsh, thankfully for the Alpha Tauris, holding position there in P3 for the time being. Liam Stevens, though, still looking like he's got a little bit more in hand over Louis Welch at the moment. Yellow flag out in Sector 1. That is... that Wilson Hall? Or is that Andres Franco who's been spun round? It's Franco, actually, who's been spun round. I tell a lie, it was not Hall, it was Franco. And that is not what you want to be seeing out of a guy who was previously just challenging for a wealth of positions. Anyway, speaking of challenging for position, Ferrari and Mercedes going head-to-head here into the hairpin and out of it, getting it a little bit messy, almost catching up with the Alfa Romeo of Moldovan behind. These guys are not letting anything go here into the spoon curve. It's a safety car because Andres Franco has retired on track. Rather than limping it back around to the pit lane, he's retired on track and caused a safety car. That is not what you want to see. That you really should go back to the pit lane if you want to retire. Bad sportsmanship there, if that is the case, if he hasn't just crashed under his own steam, but that is unusual if he has. Cameron Dowds has come into the pits here. Will we see the rest of the field behind do the same? Surely they have to, right? If Dowds is going in, everybody's going to be following. Does anybody want to take the risk on the soft tyres or the medium tyres, sorry, to stay out? Nope, the entire grid is following in. Villacampa, will he stay out maybe to try and make up some positions, or is he coming in too? No, Villacampa stays out. Tripkov will go in. Villacampa, the only driver to stay out at the moment. Cameron Dowds will maintain the race lead and will have fresh soft tyres to do it. Villacampa will be in P2. Oh, this has worked out brilliantly for Dowds. This has worked out brilliantly for Dowds. He's got a bottleneck behind him. He's got fresh tyres ahead of him. Everybody went for his strategy of getting onto these soft tyres. Cameron Dowds, take a bloody bow, my friend. What a strat this has been for Dowds here. What an absolute strat. Unreal strat, that. And it couldn't have worked out any better with Villacampa staying out too. Villacampa is going to be a sitting duck to these soft tyres, I feel. Even to the end of the race. But irrespective of that, Villacampa will find himself in a better position than what was looking like P16. So, safety car here. Big winner, Cameron Dowds. Big winner, Oscar Villacampa for now. And Paul Eckelmeyer, your pole sitter, has a lot of work to do. Andre Lopez, who was looking like he was in a decent position, must have been held up in the pit lane behind Liam Stevens as he came into pit. And as such, is going to have lost out massively. And unfortunately, my prediction for P1 might be slipping away here. Just doesn't look like he has the luck on his side today with the pit stop strategy. Villacampa has stayed out and then gone into the pits. What's he done this for then? He's going to come back out in P16, I imagine. P15. Oh, he's changing his front wing. Did he have damage? Villacampa's strat has been lay waste to by needing to change his front wing. Tripkov and Jack Humphreys have both come into the pits too. Are they also changing wings? They must have done. There'd be no other reason for them to come back into the pits. Surely. Well, that is really sad for Oscar Villacampa. I'm not sure where he's damaged his wing on that lap. But even still, Harlan Marquise, is he retiring or just putting on another set of softs to try and keep the safety car out as long as possible? He's already quite far behind the field here. So, interesting strats here. Harlan Marquis, of course, only driver out on track at the moment with a penalty. Has a 3-second time penalty for track limits warnings. And has a lot of track to try and make up here. To get back on song with the rest of the gang. Of course, everybody under safety car conditions, it shouldn't be too hard for him to do that. He shouldn't eat away at this time, realistically. But still. Difficult position to be in. He's been through the wars a bit, has Harlan Marquis this race. Anyway, as he approaches the back of the field, I didn't see a notification telling me the safety car would be in this lap, which means we're going to be going around again. I guess because Marquis hadn't caught the back of the field by the end of Sector 2. So, we have one more lap behind the safety car, I would assume, before we get to go racing again. Okay, have to imagine the safety car will be in this lap. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my mind. So, everybody is on fresh soft tyres. This is a real shootout to the end of the race here. A real shootout. We'll soon find out. We're about to cross that third sector line. Safety car in this lap. There we go. Time to turn those lights off and get away from the field. As we wait, at the front of the field then, Eckelmeyer unleashed because he doesn't have Oscar Villacampa on mediums in his way anymore. Cameron Dowds has pulled the pin, I think, at the front of the field. Of course, no DRS for these first few laps here. 3-second time penalty for Harlan Marquis and for Wilson Hall. That's not going to help them. Either way, DRS not going to be activated, but ERS going to be a huge factor here. Who's going to use the most? Who's got the pace? Who's got the outright speed? It's going to be hard to bet against Paul Eckelmeyer. He had the pace in qualifying. Looked like he had the pace on race pace outright as well. But the crafty bugger of Cameron Dowds has put himself in a race-winning position despite a less than optimal qualifying. Can he pull something out of this? DRS will be enabled, I think, for the last lap or penultimate lap. I could be wrong. Either way, we're going to see fastest laps of the race coming all over the place here. Going to be a last lap dash for sure. Either way, Cameron Dowds keeping it tidy through the through the hairpin in towards turn 12, which is just a flat right-hander, and then we're going to have the spoon curve on the left just coming up very, very shortly. The gap was built up a little bit, but seems to have fallen away here. Is Eckelmeyer using some battery? It seems not. Both these guys roughly around the same percentage of ERS. We're right on board with Eckelmeyer. See what he's got in the tank here. He's using battery down the back straight. Same for Cameron Dowds, though. Both of these guys using battery to try and gap the field behind and also give themselves a little bit of a buffer from each other. Under the braking, though, Eckelmeyer looks so good, closes up so much. Not just the concertina effect, but also just actually gaining on the traction too. Huge amounts of speed here. Overspeed, as a matter of fact. Maybe even in the slipstream. Gaining, but still not going to have enough straight line speed to make a move on Dowds this time around. Into turn 1, they've got over a second on Louis Welsh behind. If that continues, that will rule Louis Welsh out of a race win here, providing these two don't come to blows. So, lap 26, these two, Paul Eckelmeyer, Cameron Dowds, in a 2-horse race for the lead, it would seem. Both of them stretching the battery out a little bit here. Louis Welsh also doing the same thing, it would seem. Let's just keep the battery up for these remaining laps. Let's have a good check on this one. I know people like it when the when the ERS is activated, we can see it. Cameron Dowds has used a lot more than Paul Eckelmeyer here, and I don't think it's really going to be all that useful. He needs to make sure that if he's going to get by, he needs to get back by him and needs to have the ERS to do so realistically. There's going to be no DRS this time around, so he's going to want Eckelmeyer to try and get by him here on this lap so that he can DRS him on the final one. This is going to be a dangerous run for Cameron Dowds. His strategy to stay out on hard tyres after making a stop under the first safety car has paid off, because look at him now, he's in P1, but for how much longer? Eckelmeyer right in the wheel tracks in towards the Casio triangle now. Got to try and keep this one tidy. He sees the red light flashing of Cameron Dowds up ahead, and he will know that that red light spells fear. He knows that he can try and get this overtake on. DRS enabled. Dowds ending up not having the DRS or the ERS this time around, and it will be Eckelmeyer into the race lead. Dowds now in the wheel tracks. It is going to be way too far back for Louis Welsh to have any kind of impact on this race here. Everyone's on the soft tyres. We can get rid of that from the side of our screen and just enjoy the onboard and enjoy the racing for this final lap here of the Tier 3 Japanese Grand Prix here in PSGL. Cameron Dowds still hunting a race win here. He's your championship leader for a reason. He's going to have had experience of getting in this position this season already. Cameron Dowds still holding strong. He's 0.4 of a second back, 0.3 of a second back. Unfortunately, though, with the DRS activated, it's not going to be a very clean run to the line. He just needs to make sure he's very, very close to the back of Eckelmeyer as we get into the Casio triangle. That's going to be his best bet to try and disrupt him or drag him to the line as it comes around the final corner. Anyway, into Spoon. He's a little bit too far back at the moment for that move to be realistic. He's got to try and make some time up here on the back straight. He's going to be burning as much of the battery as he's got left. He's going to be praying the slipstream can bring him along. He's in the wheel tracks, but he's not going to be close enough. He's got to rely on that slipstream so very much. 0.2 of a second, 1/10 of a second. Eckelmeyer pulls to the inside. It's a switch back to the inside from Cameron Dowds. It's so narrow into the corner. They've come to blows. They come to contact. It's all nip and tuck. They're actually pushing each other off the track. DRS to be activated, but the run to the line is so very short. It's Eckelmeyer by 0.04 of a second. Louis Welsh will come home in P3. That chaos in the final corner nearly gave an opportunity to Welsh. Ewan Lanawa comes home with P4 honours, only 0.03 of a second behind. And that was one hell of a last lap. Paul Eckelmeyer, though, holds his nerve. It was a brave send up the inside from Cameron Dowds. Some would argue potentially a little bit messy too, but in the end, the race win goes to the German. Eckelmeyer on top. Qualifies on pole, will stand on the top step, and that is that for Japan. There you have it then, folks. There's your confirmation. 0.04 of a second separates Dowds and Eckelmeyer. Louis Welch just 0.4 of a second further back with Ewan Lanawa right on his heels. Liam Stevens comes home to a comfortable P5 where he started. He shall finish. Same story for Drake Dempsey. An unfortunate loser out of that race will be Andre Lopez. The second safety car really did hurt him massively there with getting caught behind his teammate Liam Stevens in the pit lane. And as such, we get a Eckelmeyer victory, a Cameron Dowds second place, and it's a clean sweep for Eckelmeyer. He gets fastest lap too, along with that pole position. A great race, a great result, and I hope you'll join us next week for much of the same here in PSGL. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you then. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.
He's got the inside, but up here he's through on the left-hand side. Pumps the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. You know what we're now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jan Ortmeier wins the